Introduction. Have you ever found yourself talking and instantly regretting what you just said? Maybe you were explaining something, trying to convince someone, or even defending your point, only to realize that your words didn't have the impact you expected. In fact, the more you spoke, the less understood you felt. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. In a world where constant chatter surrounds us, it's easy to believe that more words equate to more influence. But here's a powerful truth that's rarely talked about. The secret to truly making an impact in your conversations lies in saying less, not more. Think about it for a moment. What if, instead of filling every silence with words, you could step into a room and command attention, not because you were the loudest, but because your presence alone spoke volumes? Imagine people leaning in, hanging on to every word you say, because they understand the value in your words. This is the power of saying less. We live in a world where talking has become synonymous with being heard. We've been taught that to be understood, we need to explain everything, justify ourselves, or be the loudest in the room. But what if the opposite were true? What if the real secret to connection, respect, and influence was not in talking more, but in speaking with precision, intention, and clarity? In today's podcast, we're going to explore how the simple act of saying less can transform the way you communicate, create deeper connections, and leave a lasting impact on those around you. Whether it's in your personal relationships, professional settings, or even casual conversations, mastering the art of speaking less with more purpose can make all the difference. So stick with us, because what you're about to learn might just change the way you show up in every moment of your life. Section 1. The noise we're drowning. In every day, we are bombarded by an endless stream of noise. It's not just the constant hum of background chatter in a crowded room or the ringing notifications from your phone. It's the pressure to stay connected, the demand to be always available, and the relentless stream of opinions, updates, and alerts that flood our lives. We live in a world where it seems as if everyone is speaking, but no one is really being heard. Have you ever stopped for a moment to think about how much noise you're surrounded by each day? It's not just the obvious sounds, like the car horn honking outside or the TV blaring in the background. It's the quieter noise that invades our minds, the constant stream of information we're expected to process, the to-do lists that never seem to end, and the endless cycle of thoughts that race through our minds. It's overwhelming, isn't it? But here's the thing, amidst all this noise, how often do you find yourself truly connecting with others? How many times have you spoken to someone only to feel that what you said didn't land, or worse, didn't matter? We all have these moments, and they're not just moments of miscommunication. They're moments when the noise around us drowned out the true meaning of our words. Think about it. We live in a time where people are constantly talking, posting, sharing, and commenting. It's like a competition for attention, and the loudest voices seem to win. We scroll through our social media feeds, overwhelmed by the opinions of people we've never met, and yet we still crave connection. We flood ourselves with information, thinking that more words will somehow help us make sense of the world, but instead, all it does is drown us. It creates chaos, not clarity. In this sea of noise, we often find ourselves repeating the same things over and over. We try to explain, justify, and defend, thinking that the more we talk, the more we'll be understood. But the truth is, the more we speak, the more we dilute the power of our words. When everything we say is met with a flood of other voices, it's hard to stand out. It's hard for people to truly hear us. Now imagine this. What if, instead of adding to the noise, you could cut through it? What if, instead of speaking more, you chose to speak less but with more impact? What if your words became a rare commodity in a world drowning in trivial chatter? The secret to this is not silence, but intention. It's about speaking with precision, focusing on what truly matters, and cutting through the noise. When you choose to say less, you give yourself the space to be heard more. You stop drowning in a sea of words, and you create a ripple effect that demands attention. People will lean in, they will listen, they will be drawn to you, not because you're the loudest in the room, but because your words matter. In this world of overwhelming noise, the power of saying less is not just about reducing the words we use, it's about reclaiming our voice. It's about finding the courage to be intentional with what we say and, more importantly, with what we leave unsaid. It's about recognizing that in a world where everyone is shouting, the quietest voice often has the most power. So take a moment to reflect. Are you letting the noise drown you out, or are you taking control of the conversation? It's time to stop speaking just for the sake of being heard. It's time to speak with intention, and in doing so, transform the way you communicate, connect, and influence. Let's dive deeper into how you can start mastering this art of saying less and making it count. Section 2. The power of pausing. Have you ever been in a conversation where everything seems to be happening so quickly, and before you know it, you've said something you instantly regret? It's in those moments where the pressure to fill the silence with words becomes overwhelming, and yet we all know deep down that what we really need is not more talking, but a pause. Pausing is one of the most powerful tools in communication, and yet it is often overlooked or feared. Many of us feel uncomfortable when silence fills a conversation, as if we need to constantly speak to keep things moving. But in reality, it's the pause that creates power. The pause allows us to gather our thoughts, to choose our words carefully, and to respond with intention rather than reaction. Think back to the last time you were in an argument, or when someone said something that caught you off guard. How often did you immediately react, only to regret it later? Imagine what could have happened if, in that moment, you had simply taken a deep breath and paused. A few seconds of silence might have allowed you to collect your thoughts, avoid saying something you didn't mean, and ultimately change the course of the conversation for the better. The beauty of pausing is that it gives you control. It's not about being silent for the sake of it, but about using the silence to create clarity. When you pause, you open up space for reflection, for understanding, and for choosing the right words at the right time. It's like pressing the pause button on a movie. You stop the action to gain perspective before moving forward. Let's explore why pausing is so powerful. First and foremost, it helps to prevent you from saying something in haste. How many times have you spoken without thinking, only to wish you could take back your words? A simple pause can be a safeguard against that. By taking a brief moment before responding, you allow yourself time to process, to think through the implications of your words, and to ensure that what you say is aligned with your true intentions. But the benefits of pausing go beyond just controlling what comes out of your mouth. When you pause, you also allow the other person to pause. In a fast-paced, always-on world, everyone is in a rush to get their point across. But when you take a moment to stop and think, you create a moment of stillness that encourages the other person to do the same. This can transform the energy of the conversation, slowing things down and allowing for more thoughtful, meaningful dialogue. The pause can also act as a reset. When emotions are running high or when a conversation starts to get heated, taking a pause can help to shift the energy. It's a moment of recalibration where you step back from the intensity of the moment and approach the conversation with a clearer mind and a calmer demeanor. In doing so, you create space for more productive communication, where the focus shifts from reacting to responding. Moreover, pausing allows you to listen more effectively. It's all too easy to fall into the trap of thinking about what we are going to say next, instead of truly listening to what the other person is saying. But when you pause before speaking, you make room for deeper listening. You can hear the emotions behind the words, understand the message being conveyed, and respond in a way that acknowledges not just the content, but also the person's feelings. This creates a connection that goes beyond surface-level conversation and builds trust and respect. So how can you start incorporating the power of pausing into your own communication? It's simple. When you find yourself in a conversation, especially one where emotions are involved, take a moment to breathe before speaking. Allow the silence to fill the space and notice how it feels. In that pause, you'll find the opportunity to reflect, to choose your words with intention, and to communicate more effectively. It's also helpful to practice pausing in everyday situations, whether it's in a meeting, a casual conversation, or even with loved ones. Get comfortable with the idea of taking a moment to think before you speak. The more you practice, the more natural it will become, and soon you'll find that pausing not only enhances your communication, but also empowers you to be more present in your interactions. The power of pausing is a game changer in the way we communicate. It's not about silence for the sake of silence. It's about giving yourself the time and space to respond with thoughtfulness, clarity, and purpose. By embracing the pause, you step into a place of control, awareness, and strength. And when you do, you'll find that the impact of your words becomes far greater than anything you could say in a rush. In a world where everyone is talking, the pause is your superpower. It's the moment that allows you to be heard, not because you spoke more, but because you spoke with precision and intention. So, the next time you find yourself caught up in a conversation, remember the power of pausing. It could be the difference between a fleeting exchange and a truly meaningful connection. Section 3. Listening as a superpower. When was the last time someone truly listened to you? I mean, really listened, not just hearing the words you said, but understanding the meaning behind them? In our fast-paced world, it's easy to overlook the power of listening. We've all been caught up in the cycle of talking over each other, waiting for our turn to speak, or preparing our response while the other person is still talking. But what if I told you that the key to deeper, more meaningful connections doesn't lie in how much you talk, but how well you listen? Imagine a conversation where you feel completely understood. You don't have to repeat yourself. You don't feel like you're trying to explain things over and over. Instead, you know that the person across from you is truly present, absorbing not just the words you say, but the emotions and intentions behind them. This level of listening is more than just a skill. It's a superpower. And it's something we all have the ability to tap into. In a world dominated by constant distractions, the ability to listen with intent is a rare and valuable gift. Think about the last time you had a conversation where you felt truly heard. It's an experience that stands out, right? Now think about how you felt when someone was listening to you with that level of attention. Chances are you felt respected, valued, and even more connected to that person. That's the magic of deep listening. But listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about understanding the person behind those words. When we truly listen, we're not just passively absorbing information, we're engaging with the other person's emotions, thoughts, and feelings. We're showing up with our full presence, setting aside our own distractions, and giving them the space to express themselves. In return, we gain more than just the surface-level details of what's being said. We get a glimpse into the other person's world, their values, their struggles, and their desires. Listening like this requires presence. It's easy to get lost in your thoughts, to start formulating your response before the other person has even finished speaking. But when you listen with intention, you suspend judgment, push aside your own agenda, and focus solely on understanding. You ask yourself, what is this person really trying to say? You tune into their emotions, the pauses in their voice, the subtle body language that may reveal more than words can express. This kind of listening creates space for empathy. You begin to recognize that everyone has a story, and often their words are a window into something deeper. Maybe they're struggling with something, or maybe they're sharing a moment of joy. By listening with empathy, you allow that person to feel heard and seen, something that is becoming more and more rare in our world of surface-level interactions. But listening like this is not always easy. In fact, it requires practice and self-awareness. Often our own thoughts get in the way. We're thinking about our own experiences, our own emotions, and it can be tempting to respond with our own perspective rather than understanding theirs. It takes effort to pause those thoughts and truly immerse yourself in the other person's world. One of the most powerful benefits of listening deeply is that it helps build trust. When people feel heard, they feel safe. They feel like their voice matters, and when people feel safe, they're more likely to open up, share more, and engage in more honest, meaningful conversations. This is how relationships, whether personal or professional, are built. It's not about being the loudest or the most persuasive, it's about creating a space where others feel comfortable sharing and being vulnerable. Think about the impact this can have in your own life, whether it's with a friend, a colleague, or a family member, when you listen deeply, you create a bond that goes beyond words. It becomes a connection that's built on understanding, trust, and mutual respect. It's no longer just about the exchange of ideas, it's about the exchange of energy, of presence, of authenticity. So, how can you become a better listener? It starts with being present in the moment. Next time you're in a conversation, put your phone down, make eye contact, and give your full attention to the other person. Notice their body language, the tone of their voice, the words they choose. Allow yourself to be fully immersed in what they're saying. Resist the urge to interrupt, to fix things, or to offer solutions. Sometimes the best thing you can do is simply listen. Ask yourself, what is this person really trying to express? And listen not just to their words, but to the emotions behind them. When they pause, don't rush to fill the silence. Let it sit for a moment. This pause creates space for deeper understanding, and it shows the other person that you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. You're there, with them, every step of the way. By learning to listen with intention, you'll find that you connect with others on a much deeper level. You'll build stronger relationships, foster greater trust, and find that your own communication becomes more effective. The more you practice listening as a superpower, the more you'll realize that silence isn't empty, it's full of meaning. The next time you find yourself in a conversation, remember that your ability to truly listen can make all the difference. It's the superpower that can transform how you connect with others, how you understand the world, and how you build deeper, more authentic relationships. So, tune in, listen closely, and watch how the world around you changes. Section 4. Why words lose their weight. Have you ever said something, only to realize moments later that it didn't carry the impact you expected? Maybe you spoke from the heart, or you thought you carefully crafted your message, but instead of receiving the response you hoped for, it seemed like your words fell flat. If you've experienced this, you're not alone. We've all been there, wondering why words, which are meant to hold meaning and convey emotions, often seem to lose their power. In today's world, it's easy to fall into the trap of over-explaining. We've all been taught that to be understood, we need to clarify ourselves constantly, to speak louder, and to repeat our points until they land. But here's the hard truth. The more we speak, the less our words carry weight. When we over-explain, we water down our message. We create a blur of words, and in that blur, the clarity we hope to convey often gets lost. Think about the last time someone over-explained something to you. How did it make you feel? Perhaps you started zoning out, thinking, I already understood what you meant. Why are you continuing to talk? This response is common because when someone repeats themselves too much, it often comes across as uncertainty. It may seem like they don't trust their own message or that they're unsure of their own point. The truth is, the more we speak, the more we risk diminishing the power of our words. This is particularly important when it comes to relationships and professional communication. Imagine you're having a conversation with someone you respect, and they begin to ramble on, explaining every little detail of their point. What happens? You begin to lose focus. You might even stop listening altogether, simply because the words are no longer captivating. In contrast, when someone speaks with intention, when their words are deliberate and purposeful, it grabs your attention. You listen carefully because each word feels like it's meaningful. So why do we do this? Why do we over-explain? Often it's because we're trying to be understood, or we fear that we haven't conveyed our message clearly. We believe that if we keep talking, we'll make ourselves understood, but this isn't always the case. Instead of increasing our clarity, we make things more complicated. Think of it like this. When you try to fill a glass with water, it's best to pour slowly. If you rush, the water will spill over the sides and you'll lose control. The same is true with words. When we're too eager to get everything out, we risk overwhelming the listener, and they stop paying attention to the message we want to share. This is especially important in a world where everyone is speaking and trying to be heard. The challenge isn't just to speak, it's to speak with purpose. It's about cutting through the noise. Imagine if we could create a space where every word we spoke carried meaning, where every sentence we shared was filled with intention. When we talk less but talk with purpose, our words have a lasting impact. They are heard, processed, and remembered. Think about the most influential speakers, the ones who leave a mark with their words. They don't talk endlessly, instead they choose their words carefully. When they speak, they don't need to say much because what they do say resonates deeply with the listener. This is the power of precision. By focusing on the quality of your words rather than the quantity, you ensure that your message is clear, powerful, and impactful. This approach doesn't just apply to public speaking or big conversations, it applies to everyday life. Whether you're speaking with friends, family, or colleagues, the principle of saying less applies. The power of your words is not in how much you say, but in what you say and how you say it. When you speak with precision, you show respect for the listener's time and attention. You avoid overwhelming them with too much information, and instead, you allow your message to stand out. In relationships, the art of saying less is about being mindful. It's about choosing the right moments to speak and understanding that silence can sometimes speak louder than words. Sometimes it's not necessary to fill every gap in a conversation with words. By leaving space, you give the other person room to share, reflect, and respond. You create a flow in the conversation that feels natural and engaging rather than forced. The key to speaking with impact is not just about what you say, but when and how you say it. This means being aware of the power of pauses, knowing when to give the other person room to speak, and choosing the moments when your words will matter the most. It's about being mindful of the weight of your words, knowing that by saying less, you create a space where your message is clearer, stronger, and more meaningful. So the next time you're about to speak, take a moment to reflect. Do I really need to say all of this? Or can I say it in fewer words but with more intention? When you start practicing this art of speaking with precision, you'll notice how much more people listen. They will pay attention to your words because they'll know that every word you say has purpose and value. The power of saying less isn't about limiting yourself, it's about expanding your influence. It's about understanding that in a world full of noise, your voice doesn't need to shout to be heard. By speaking with purpose and clarity, you can make a lasting impact, one word at a time. Conclusion. The power of saying less. As we wrap up, let me leave you with one powerful thought. Sometimes less truly is more. In a world filled with noise, where everyone is trying to be heard, the real art lies in knowing when to speak and, more importantly, when to say less. The power of saying less is not about holding back, but about speaking with precision, clarity, and purpose. Every time you choose your words thoughtfully, you are creating an impact that is deeper and longer lasting. When you pause before speaking, when you listen with intent, and when you cut through the clutter, you elevate your communication to a level that draws people in, leaving them with something meaningful to take away. Your words gain weight, and your message resonates because you are no longer just talking, you are connecting. Remember, influence is not about volume, it is about quality. When you speak with intention, you stand out in a world that is constantly shouting for attention. You don't need to fill every silence or justify every thought. The less you say, the more they will listen because your words will carry with them the weight of true significance. So as you move forward, start practicing the power of saying less. Embrace the silence, choose your moments, and allow your words to have the impact they deserve. When you do, you'll find that your voice not only becomes stronger, but also more meaningful, leaving a lasting impression on everyone you meet. Because in the end, it's not how much you say that matters, but what you say and how you say it.